Welcome to Buzzed and Baffled, the podcast where the wine is flowing and the stories are strange.
Each week, we uncork a bottle, take a sip, and dive into some of the most jaw-dropping, unbelievable true tales you've never heard before.
From historical mysteries to bizarre real-life events, we'll have you wondering, is this for real?
So, grab your glass, sit back, and join us as we get buzzed and you get baffled.
Hey listeners, just a quick note before we dive in. Buzzed and Baffled is a podcast where we enjoy a glass of wine, share wild stories, and sometimes get a little, well, buzzed.
While we strive to share true and accurate tales, we're here for the entertainment as much as the facts. So take everything we say with a grain of salt and a splash of wine. Any opinions shared here are our own and do not reflect those of any other party.
Always drink responsibly and remember, the truth can be stranger than fiction. So it's the 4th of July.
Oh yeah, so here we are, 4th of July. Yeah. Everything in the country is going great.
America's birthday. I would say happy birthday, America, but you don't really deserve it right now.
I wore a black dress to dinner today. Yeah. I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, things are not going great, and America, you really need to do better.
Like, step up your game.
No birthday presents.
Nope, you get nothing.
You were sassy, and your birthday party got canceled.
Yes.
So, we have... I already started off by saying so, like, first thing I said.
Look at the sign, Kyla.
This is something, I wouldn't say super different, but not in the normal realm of Buzzed and Baffled. This is called Tarangino, and this is from Trader Joe's. It's not a Trader Joe's branded product, but it's something that they carry, that we bought and tried when we were down in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, visiting our friends a couple weekends ago. And it's wine with Valencian oranges. But the description on the side says wine and orange drink.
What they mean is only slightly alcoholic tang.
Yep. And it says, we make Tarangino from the best Valencian oranges, a symbol of vitality and freshness of the Mediterranean. 100% Valencian oranges from the Antello Manchetta family. So what we've done is we tasted it, and like I said, I'd had this down at my friend's house, but we tasted it, and then my friend actually made a pseudo Aperol spritz with this instead of Prosecco, and it actually doesn't taste that bad. So we kind of did the same thing, and Nicole did you taste it yet?
Uh-huh. There's a reason I have a glass of Boda Box Rosé also right next to me.
Rosé chaser?
Yeah. It's a flavor combination of things.
Yeah, and Nicole forgot her club soda at home, so we had to use summerberry seltzer water,
It's giving it a little extra something.
Yeah, it's leaned a little cough medicine-y.
It does very much taste like Robitussin.
But it's not bad with the Aperol.
And not in a good way, because, like, Jaeger tastes like Robitussin, and I can't drink Jaeger anymore because I'm not in my 20s, but that also tastes like Robitussin.
I don't think there's ever been anyone who says, this tastes like Robitussin in a good way.
But I don't
You like Robitussin?
I like Robitussin!
You are the weirdest person I've ever met in my entire life.
Surprise, surprise! So, are you ready for today's story?
I'm gonna have to be.
So, today, we're coming in to the home area here, and we're going to be talking about a local murder.
This is exciting. She asked me about this, and I all I know about it is that it happened. Mm-hmm. I don't know really any details. I was pretty young when this happened, and I grew up about an hour away from where we are now and where this happened, and as a 6-year-old, I wouldn't have been watching TV 6 years.
Because it was in 1992.
Yeah, I was 6.
I was 12. Being the older, more experienced human.
Yeah. I don't think I was watching I wasn't reading the Gazette.
No, you weren't? Okay.
No.
Well, don't you worry, though. I have a printout of one of the articles for you to read later. So, and I am just going to predicate this by saying that, so a lot of these people still live locally, mm-hmm. So there are going to be instances in which I don't say the names of people because I don't want to dox anybody. Mm-hmm. So, today I'm going to focus on a local story that I remember from my childhood. This is something that happened in Houghton County, and it happened in 1992. It involves a woman named Jody Watts and a man named David Goodrow.
Okay.
So, in 1992, Jody was a local teen attending Michigan Technological University as an undergrad student. She was found raped and stabbed in the subway platform parking lot, and the assault did not immediately result in her death. She managed to drag herself 160 feet to Main Street, where a biker found her and contacted the police. After the emergency services arrived, she was transported to the Portage ER, but she shortly succumbed to her wounds after that. It was her murder that kicked off a manhunt for the person that was later discovered.
I used to, when my office building was in the city center in Houghton, we used to walk through there every single day.
And so you'll see, I'm going to post on buzzedandbaffled.net like a picture of what the parking lot looks like today, and you see the black and white photo up there.
Yeah,
that's from 1992. That is, it looks pretty much the same.
Well, it's always been a Subway there.
It's always been a Subway.
Okay. I used to eat at that Subway all the time.
So, we know Jody Lynn Watts is a victim here, but kind of the main person is a man named David Goodrow. He was a local man who attended Houghton High School, where he graduated in 1973 as an honor student. He then attended Michigan Technological University, which is a STEM college. And he obtained a degree in forestry, and he worked for a period of time in forestry in Aurora, Illinois, so tuck that place behind your ear for later, and in downstate Michigan, tuck that behind your ear. David was married with children, and he worked in several Social Security offices across Illinois and Michigan.
So he had a forestry background, but then changed to working in Social
So
Security.
he ended up working in the Social Security office for the Social Security Administration.
Okay.
So now we're going to explore what happened to David's victims locally. And so this is kind of, I got to be careful what I say, because he still has family that lives in the area.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to them.
Yeah, and our intention is, this isn't an expose. Everyone knows this happened. Well, not me, because I was 6, but this isn't a go harass these people. This is just us telling a story about something that happened locally.
So, before Jody Lynn Watts, though, there was a young woman named Kathy Nan Curvis. And so I was only able to find one photo of her, which I'm going to show you. And you could also see in buzzedandbaffled.net. It's a high school photo book, or from a high school album. So it's hard to, see.
Yeah, so if you gotta kind of, back away and squint. But you can see what she looks like, just like a regular teenager.
Yeah, it's a teenager from the 90s in a high school yearbook. So at the time, David met Kathy through his job because he worked at the Social Security Administration in the Houghton office. Kathy was a 20-year-old mother of 2, and she received disability benefits due to having cerebral palsy.
Oh, okay.
She met David because he was her caseworker at the Social Security Administration. As her caseworker, David had access to her personal information, and he used this to stalk her.
Cool. Awesome.
On June 12, 1991, he went to her house in Lawrence, Michigan, where he observed her sleeping on the couch. He broke into her home, where he duct taped her and transported her from her home. And so this is where the map comes in. So anyone who's not familiar, we live on a peninsula. He was in Lawrence, Michigan, which was on one side of the peninsula. So he was down over here, but he transported her to the Lily Pond, which is near McLean State Park.
Yep.
So he was up here.
Yeah. On 107.
M203.
203, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
107's an Ontonagon, never mind.
Yeah, no, M203.
Yes,
so
203.
So he came all the way through Barrett County, through Houghton County, and he was heading toward the breaker walls.
It's not a super long drive, but it's far. It's
over 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a next door thing.
So he brought her to the lily pond in his car. Kathy was reported missing, and for the police, they suspected foul play, but friends had also reported that she had recently been depressed. So she was missing for 2 weeks, but there wasn't a lot of news coverage on the fact that she was missing. So her body was later discovered by 2 fishermen who pulled her out of the Portage Canal near the Keweenaw Bay. So he brought her...
And she went back down through...
So she went through the Portage Canal, all the way through Hancock
all the
and
way
Houghton,
back through the bay,
the way to the bay, and she made it that
my
far in
gosh.
that 2-week period.
And yeah, we'll post a map on Buzzed and Baffled, but it's basically she was transported by car to one place, killed, and then her body, just by way of the water, went back to almost where she was picked up.
Oh, let me see here. Where am I? So it should be noted that the location where David states he killed Kathy is on the north side, but she was found on the south side. So that entire 2-week period, she's just slowly making her way through there. So when they found her, she'd been in the water so long that there was not a lot of forensic evidence to be found.
Yeah.
Also considering this was 1993 or 1992, or no, we're in 1991 right now. There wasn't a lot of forensic evidence.
Right, and any body that's submerged in water for any amount of time, if you're not in like super cold water, like the depths of Lake Superior, decomposition is going to be accelerated, and you just become waterlogged. So like fingerprints become really difficult. There may be animal activity, fish and whatnot, but any type of water death where the body is submerged for a prolonged amount of time is just really bad news.
It's hard to get and what is from you being in the lake and what is from the crime.
Yeah, it's hard to, especially when the body traveled, well, at this point they probably didn't know how far it traveled, but there's a lot of different foliage and things that the body, comes into during that time period that just makes it really difficult to really know where to start your investigation.
So I have notes here to see, this is your time to shine, Kyla.
Okay.
So, the history of forensic science. As a death examiner, what do you know about the history of forensic science and kind of the progression of where things were?
Well, I know, at least in the United States, we would develop new technologies over time, but it's kind of always reactionary. And there's actually a lady, and I was considering doing a story about her, but I don't think I could get enough time out of it, who lived in the Boston area. Her name was Dolores something, and she's considered the mother of modern forensic science in the United States. She wasn't a scientist herself, but she was born into a wealthy family.
This isn't the genealogy lady, is
No.
it? Okay.
She was born into a wealthy family, used that wealth, and she actually became the first police, I want to say lieutenant captain or something, in the Massachusetts State Police. I heard it on a different podcast. And I don't know much about forensic science because that wasn't something that wasn't the side that I was involved in.
So kind of, I just did a little thing to say, okay, so it's 1991. What were the capabilities?
Oh, 1991, you would have had fingerprints, but I don't know if CODIS quite existed yet.
Nope. So, in 1980s, fingerprinting was developed. CODIS was started by the FBI in 1990.
Okay.
So it was in its infancy.
Yeah, and one of the things about CODIS is it's a centralized network, but you have to be able to access it. The internet is barely existing right now.
Yeah. So it's the DNA database.
Yeah.
So you have to have a way to access a database in order to search the database.
And if you have someone's fingerprints, to be able to, put the digital image into CODIS for matches is cool, but you have to be able to tap into that system. And at this point, DNA was it was more than before. DNA started probably in the 60s or 70s, but at that point it was super basic, like man, woman. Like that's all you got.
Well, and I think the problem was the analysis of it because digital forensics, the use of computers to recover and analyze data. Oh, this is actually for like using computers itself, started in 91. And there was something called the Integrated Ballistic Identification System, IBIS, where they used to link firearms to cases, started then. But that's not really relevant to this case.
Yeah, so forensics exists at this point, but we're just starting to use computers instead of like hand matching, looking at slides of things.
So basically, in 1991, when Kathy was murdered, the only thing the police had was fingerprinting and ballistic analysis. So they had the ability to look at projectiles, but there were no projectiles to be analyzed here to help solve the crime. However, it can be assumed, regardless of this is the reality, the police did not take this crime as seriously as they should have based on the identity of the victim. Because up to this point, it's not even a blip on anyone's radar that this woman just showed up in the canal after being missing for 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's just a dead lady who floated in the canal. That's no biggie. Come on, people.
But I mean, as we know, there can be bias at play when it comes to how much attention or coverage a crime gets based on the identity of the victim.
Exactly.
When we look at news coverage, for those who have gone missing, there's a phenomenon called the missing white woman syndrome.
Yep.
Which she is a missing white woman, but she's not the right type of missing white woman. And while Kathy herself was a white woman, she was not considered part of the majority population in Houghton and Baraga County.
Yeah, she was the wrong
socioeconomic status.
Yeah, exactly. Wrong last name, wrong, if she was on disability, had 2 children, she was probably looked down upon as quote-unquote white trash, and she was less than.
Yes. So after David was captured, he did confess to the police about her murder. He reports that he was afraid that his actions of kidnapping and raping Kathy would be discovered. So he held her head under the water at the lily pond. I have a picture of the lily pond to show you.
And this is your own photography, right?
This is my own photography because this is down the street from where I grew up. And so it's a boat access, but there's easy access to the water.
Yeah, it's just like a walk up.
Yep.
There's not a cliff or anything. It's just like a walk-in pond.
Yep. Well, no, this is the Portage Canal.
Well, that's like Lily. I meant like you could walk in like as if it was a pond.
Yes. So he held her head under the water until she drowned. He assumed that her body would sink, and he was dismayed when he found that it would not.
Oh, so he didn't have to take any human biology classes in his forestry degree.
Apparently not. He attempted to submerge her body again by stabbing her several times. But it did not puncture the stomach, so the gases built up and she rose to the surface again.
Yep.
So tell us, why did that happen?
That happened because any hollow cavity in your body, we all know we're full of bacteria. We have more bacteria in us than our own cells. Really, I mean, we're more bacteria than we are ourselves. And you have hollow cavities, lungs, intestines, stomach. Those are open spaces. So as decomposition starts, the bacteria inside you start to produce gas, and the gas is looking for the easiest way out, and it fills those open spaces. But it can't always get out because, you're not speaking, you're not breathing, there's no air exchange. So the gases basically just get held inside, bodies start to bloat, and when they bloat, you put them in water, they float.
Yep. And that is why eventually she was found by the fishermen, because had she been in Lake Superior, those gases and bacteria probably would not have been present.
Right.
Because Lake Superior is so cold, but she wasn't. She was in the Portage Canal.
Yeah, and when we say Lake Superior, we're not talking like right off the shore. This is like middle, deep, far into Lake Superior. Not too far, but the water in Lake Superior is so cold, it hampers that decomposition process, so those gases don't get generated in the same amount as in warmer water.
So... Oh, I said so.
You said so like 500 times. That's okay.
You need to spray me with a water bottle.
Yeah. Like a cat.
Yep. So after Kathy was discovered in June 1991, nothing happened for 7 months. But David was braver on his next assault with Jody Watts. Jody was a runner who was out for a late night run. So it was like 2:30 a.m. on January 21st.
Oh.
So
Girl.
she's an avid runner if she's out running on January 21st, but also it's really early in the morning.
That's just so cold. That's the kind of cold in the middle of January where you feel it inside your bones.
Like you can't feel your fingers because it's so cold. So she was running near the subway, and as she went by the parking or the garage there, he grabbed her. And he dragged her into the garage, where he raped her and stabbed her repeatedly with a screwdriver.
You might be getting to this, so I don't want to pull a you, but was he stalking her to know that she was, or was it just completely he was just hanging out there at 2:30 randomly?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yep. So she was stripped and stabbed and he left her for dead. But she was able to drag herself to the main road going through downtown Houghton, and she was found by the biker. It should be noted that David had escalated significantly in the last 7 months, as the site of the assault was 100 feet from the Houghton County, or the Houghton City Police Department.
Yeah, the building that I used to work in, we were up on the second and third floors.
Like, it's right there.
And the Houghton City Police office is on the first floor. It's
like, some of them park in that garage.
It's like literally
I'm sure.
around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
There's really, it's the police station, and then the subway. They're right next to each other.
He later acknowledged that he believed that Jody recognized him. So when she was running, she saw him and recognized him, so that's why he murdered her. Because he was worried that it would alert the police that something was wrong. Mm. He did not want anyone to know what he was doing, obviously. But it wasn't like he was stalking her the way he was stalking Kathy. Mm-hmm. She wasn't at the Social Security office. He had no access to her information.
Right.
So, but here's where we see the evidence of the white woman syndrome come into play. Because when it's an attractive co-ed assaulted near and murdered near a police station, people pay attention.
Yeah, and a college campus, that's a big part of it too.
So I remember this when this happened, because before this, like the university police, they never carried guns. They used to joke that if something happened, they'd have to throw their keys at the people to stop it. So the university police started carrying weapons, and there was reward money put up to find the person responsible for her death. They put up there was a $10,000 reward, which in 1992 was a big money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
But know that at this time, they did not link the death of Jody Watts to Kathy Nankervis. They did not view them as connected at this time.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, because they're different injuries, different locations. Mm-hmm. Really, the only thing that was in common was that it was two white women. But
up here, the likelihood that the murder victim is a white person is pretty high.
Yeah, and for our listeners who don't know, which probably all of our listeners know, we live in a very small area. It's small. This is not something that regularly happens. So if you have a murder and 7 months later you have another murder and you didn't find the perpetrator of the first murder, maybe someone should have said,
that's weird.
Yeah, like we didn't have a murder for, 10 years, I don't know how many years it was before, and then we have 2 in 7 months, and we didn't get we know nothing about the first time. That just seems...
Well, and we don't have any reason why these people are being killed. It's not like it was a crime of passion and the partner obviously did it. It wasn't like a robbery. Yeah,
these seem to be random acts. Mm-hmm. They're obviously not, because there was stalking involved, at least with the first one. But it's not a road rage incident. It's not a fight that escalated. These are people who are left places.
Yep. And so here I'm going to kind of break down and look at kind of how the acceleration of crime and rapists and murderers happen. Mm-hmm. So, do you have any knowledge of this you would like to give forth before I read my list?
A lot of true crime documentaries. Like, that's all I watch.
It's very healthy.
That's constantly. I always have a show on in the background if I'm working on my computer or something.
Do you fall asleep to it? I fall asleep
no,
to
I don't.
I find it so calming. I just go right to sleep.
I've watched, if there's been a documentary about true crime, I've probably seen it.
This is why this podcast is so hard for me. So I'm trying to find things she doesn't know about.
But I do know they accelerate because they become emboldened every time. And a lot of times these people start out with petty crime, shoplifting, maybe assault, and I know we have the triad of serial killers where it's the fire starting, the bedwetting, and the animal killing and torture. Those are kind of the three major things. But they do accelerate, and everything becomes worse and worse and worse because they're emboldened every time they're not caught.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, so there's the fantasy and reinforcement. So typically serial killers have a rich fantasy life where violence plays a significant role. So the act of murder becomes a way to enact those fantasies. Something called the cyclical mechanism. So the first murder can activate the cyclical psychological process, which becomes an addiction almost. So they have to get relief from internal tensions and anxieties through those acts. And the positive reinforcement you were talking about, well, each time I get away with it, I'm going to be a little bolder the next time. So the line moves. Psychologically, there's usually a need for power and control. They often might feel inadequate or powerless in their lives.
And that's you see that I would say it's uncommon, at least for the mainstream serial killers. They all had inadequacies, whether it was
perceived
usually
or
an overbearing mother. That was a common thread. Or perceived or otherwise, but there was always a level of feeling of inadequacy, and they're lashing out because they feel their victim also saw them in that way, which was probably not the case usually.
So the emotional gratification of the killing helps them because it helps them to relieve that anxiety and stress. But over time, they need to increase the number of murders that happen, so your time period shortens to kind of scratch that itch. And also, they get desensitized. So if I keep upping my game, the things don't seem so bad because I've done them so many times.
Yes, and if you look at major serial killers like Ted Bundy or whoever, their first murders are maybe a strangling, and then it goes to a strangling and a beating.
It's a learning experience. And this is something we're going to talk about in a little bit, like, was Kathy Nankervis his first problem?
I'm going to say no, because to transport a body away from, and like a distance away, is kind of a higher tier move than a first kill.
That's more advanced skills.
Yes.
Than like just going and killing someone on a site.
Yep, especially because
there's a second location.
Yep, especially because he knew to stab her in the lungs and missed her stomach.
Yeah.
That's forethought. That's not something, that's not a snap in decision that you make where someone wronged you and you lose your mind and kill them.
So, do you think that after Jody, David stopped?
No.
You would be correct. So he did not stop hunting women, even knowing that the police were actively searching for him. He waited about 6 months. And 6 months later, after the murder of Jody, the police received a frantic phone call from a woman claiming that a man was attempting to break into her apartment. And these are the apartment. I said, hey, we got to stop here, and I got to take this picture.
Just down the road from where we live.
Yep. So there is, and I'll also have this on buzzedandbaffled.net. She was in one of the basement apartments. Okay. I'm not going to say this woman's name because she still lives locally. So the police responded, and they found Goodrow outside the apartment carrying knives, a tire iron, a ski mask, rubber gloves, duct tape, lubricated jelly, and a video camera.
Oh, the usual things you carry when you're just out and about.
Yes. And so, but that also shows he'd escalated again.
Yeah, he's going to beat her with the tire iron. He wants to videotape it because he wants to relive it later. And he's 100% planned this.
Yes. So after his capture, he quickly confessed. But also we know that the times, like when he went to kidnap Kathy Nankervis, his family was away at a Bible camp. So he planned for his family to be gone so he could go and do this.
Yeah.
Jody Watts was opportunity, and it was a fear response because he was worried she would notice that he's lurking in this parking garage. So I never found out who was it he was looking for. Because he's looking for somebody.
Yeah, he was... I mean, he's a prowler. He's someone... He's not an opportunity... I mean, Jody was an killing opportunity. Killing. But he was there for a different reason. Mm-hmm. Because who's going to just sit in a parking garage waiting for at 2:30 in the morning, waiting for someone
on January 21st
to randomly
UP.
run by?
Yeah.
Especially because he really didn't know about her, so he wouldn't have known ahead of time that she was going to be doing that.
Because for people who don't know what it looks like downtown Houghton, January 21st at 2:30 in the morning, the only thing you're going to see is drunk college students walking back to the frats and the dorms.
Mm-hmm. And that's if there wasn't a huge snowstorm. I mean, you might see a few stragglers, but January 21st, actually, side note, January 21st is considered the worst day of the year.
Because it's the longest day of the year.
No, it's
the darkest day.
Nope,
No?
you're still wrong.
Is that not the winter solstice?
That's December.
Oh, no! I was so sure of myself, too.
Yeah, you dug into that one.
Lead it.
Yeah, you were, on top of it. You were so proud of yourself. Good try. No, it's considered the worst day of the year because it's after Christmas. There's nothing else. There's no more holidays. And,
I mean, my birthday's coming up pretty soon, so that's a holiday.
But it's the time when the grace period of your credit card is expired from Christmas. Yeah, so you get bills due. There's and it's just horribly frigid all the time.
Yes. Well, I mean, for us, because we live in hell.
Yeah, but that was something I read a long time ago that a lot of people who study this.
So the question is, are these the only 3 victims of David Goodrow?
Well, I recall when you told me to put Aurora, Illinois, and downstate Michigan behind my ears, so I'm going to say no.
So right now, number 1, that's him right now. That's him today.
Okay.
He's currently housed in the Saginaw Correctional Facility because he has been convicted for the murders of Kathy and Jody.
Okay, and I can tell I know that's a Michigan. You could ask me where he's being housed, and I would have said for sure in Michigan because all Michigan offenders have those blue jumpsuits with the orange stripes on them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Anytime you look up on Otis or whatever, they all have that.
So, and I wasn't going to talk about this until I dug and I started to find the court paperwork. And when I can find the court paperwork, I'm willing to talk about it. Thanks, Pacer. So, he is known to have lived in Illinois, where it is suspected that he assaulted a woman on a bike trail. He was later transferred from the Illinois to the Social Security office in Lower Michigan. Online, there were claims that in Grand Rapids, a coworker reported him for leaving notes on their car, and that he had been to their house. But I can't confirm or deny if that's true.
Okay.
It's also reported that he was a voyeur and would watch women and keep souvenirs.
Yeah, that totally tracks with everything else.
So I dug, and I started looking for news articles and court filings. And on January 1st, 1983, he was charged at DuPage County, Illinois.
Okay.
He pled guilty to battery when he grabbed the breast of a woman who was just biking past him. He was on his lunch break.
Oh my God.
And in broad daylight, was honk honk.
Men, you gotta do better.
Yes. He was on probation for a year, and was court ordered to undergo counseling. He was then transferred from the Illinois Social Security office to Grand Rapids, where he did receive good performance reviews, and then finally he moved to Houghton, Michigan, where the murders occurred. So the question is, if the Social Security Administration knew that this happened, why did he still have a job at the Social Security Administration? Because you assaulted someone and you work with at-risk populations.
Yeah, that should have been immediate termination. You should not have people's information if you've been convicted of a crime like that.
Mm-hmm. Kathy's mother also agreed with this because she sued the Social Security Administration after her death, stating that if his boss in Illinois had not failed to pursue further information as to the nature of his conviction after he lied to his employer, and if due diligence had been completed, Kathy and Jody would not have been murdered.
Yeah, and I see where she's coming from. I mean, if, there's...
Because he killed Kathy because he had access to information.
And, getting a speeding ticket or a parking ticket or something super minor like that, not a big deal. But if you have crimes against populations like women, any type of crime like that where you have demonstrated that you can't be trusted in public, why should you have access to people's private information?
And this is obviously a judgment problem. Mm-hmm. Like you're on your lunch break in a public park and you just reached out and sexually assaulted somebody.
Yeah, that should have been immediate termination. Like, if I would have done something like that, I'm pretty sure I would lose my job.
And it should be noted that in order to work for the Social Security Administration, you have to undergo a criminal background check and a credit history check, verification of education and employment records, and you have to pass a security clearance, which is more than any other kind of background check.
Yeah, this isn't like he's pulling up to McDonald's looking for a job, and that's certainly not a knock on people who work at McDonald's, but we know certain industries and employers have different standards of scrutiny on people's life histories.
Well, yeah, because we both work in regulated industries. My background checks are different than yours because I'm sure you have like a financial credit background check.
I had to consent to a credit check even before I got my interview at work because, anytime we offer someone a job, we do a credit check. And there have been a couple instances where someone has been not offered a job because their credit, and that's just because we work
it's the nature of the beast, and there's risk.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk, and whether it's perceived or real, there is risk that someone who maybe had financial issues in the past may try to do something with our consumers' information or something untoward. Well,
and in my job, I work with at-risk populations. I work with severely mentally ill people and people with trauma. You can't have someone willy-nilly just going through there.
Well,
half-assing it. But here I am.
No, that wasn't going to be a knock on you. That was going to be a knock on your one of your previous coworkers.
Oh, Catman.
Yeah, that you
Meow.
Yep. That you can just have someone going in there willy-nilly doing whatever.
Uh-huh. But, if I was out, just assaulting people in public, just, grabbing dongs all over the place.
That's a problem.
They're going to be like, hey, girl, this is an ethical thing. You can't have a license anymore.
Yeah, you don't get to work here anymore.
Yes. So the background check was crucial for ensuring the integrity and the security of the Social Security Administration, but the boss never, did the background check to be like, hey, buddy, why were you arrested for sexual assault? He just said, oh, it was nothing, and, bumped her in the park, and he's like, okay, cool.
Oh, and he just took his word for it.
I mean, I don't know, because there's no information on that.
Well, yeah, there's no way the Social Security Administration's going to be like, oh, here's the transcript of what the boss did.
Yeah, no. But so, the thing is, Kathy's mother lost this lawsuit.
Was it a wrongful death suit?
No, it was a civil lawsuit.
Right.
She was suing them for civil, I don't know what you call it. It's not a civil crime. It's a civil loss. Because the lack of them doing their jobs resulted in the death of two people.
Yeah. It was probably like a civil wrongful death suit.
So, but the judge... So she lost the lawsuit and the appeal, and the judge stated this: the Social Security Administration have broad discretion to police themselves. Even the shoddy probe in 1983 sufficed.
That's not awesome.
that's a little sketchy.
Yeah. And I don't know what she was like, what the amount she was suing for. Maybe it was a lot of money. Maybe it was a $1 symbolic suit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the Social Security Administration should take on some responsibility because they did not do their due diligence.
And it led to the death of 2 women.
Yeah, and there was something a little more recently that happened that's kind of the same thing. Didn't lead to anyone's death, but one of our local skeezy people.
Skeezy?
Who,
oh, skeezy people. Sorry, I was thinking ski, S-K-I-Z.
No. We have a local sex offender who basically did the same thing with hockey players. And when it first happened, nobody did their nobody rang the alarm bells like they were supposed to, so it continued to happen.
Yes. And you can't do that.
Nope.
Because in the end, it always comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So like grandma or mom lost the suit. Nothing ever came of that. So David Goodrow sitting in the Saginaw prison. The wife and the kids stayed in Houghton County. Graduated from here.
Oh, that's, I mean, that's, I'm saying bold, not that they had anything to do with this or were involved in any way, but usually people, when that sort of thing happens, they leave because they don't want to be targeted. And
I don't think that, because I don't remember like the kids ever being targeted for that, but there's always small town talk.
Yeah, and whether maybe their house wasn't egged and vandalized, but I'm sure there's whispers every time they go to the grocery store.
Well, and you're never going to walk away from something like that unscathed.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people, they just up and move to somewhere where nobody knows who they are.
Mm-hmm. So the wife, still local, not going to say her name. The sons, I don't believe are local. I know one of them. I know where one of them is, and he's not local. He's number 3 on the board.
Oh, that looks... Well, so that's a driver's license photo, but it also looks very mugshotty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing you would not just put up a guy's driver's license photo.
No. That's David's son, Brett Goodrow. He was convicted in 2023 of inappropriately touching a young child, in which he served 9 months. He was then charged again in 2024 for possession and distributing child pornography, and he was just indicted in July 2024, and he's currently awaiting trial.
That kind of reminds me, when we talked about Steven Stainer and his brother becoming a serial killer, was the brother already going to be a serial killer without Steven's kidnapping because it was just whatever he was going to do? That's kind of the same thing. Had his dad not been a murderer, would he have done this or not?
Well, the thing with Steven Stainer, Steven was the victim.
Right.
The brother was the perpetrator. Here, dad was the perpetrator, son is the perpetrator. Mm-hmm. The crimes are different. What did Brett experience with dad?
Well, exactly. Yeah, what did dad do to Brett? And maybe it's nothing, and maybe Brett is just a
creep.
A creep.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm guessing probably not.
Yeah.
And that's conjecture, but that's...
Yeah.
The patterns I have seen with things lead me to say probably not.
No. Experiences lead to behaviors because it becomes normalized. And typically, adult perpetrators of sexual abuse were sexually abused themselves. That doesn't mean that David did it.
Yeah, it could have been someone else.
Yes. But there's usually a strong correlation between
and
that.
Who knows what growing up with him was like. Mm-hmm. If you have a guy who stalks and kills women.
Well, and the thing is, everyone was very surprised in town. I remember this because he was such a nice, quiet man.
They almost always are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, John Wayne Gacy was a clown at children's parties.
Well, you have to be because you have to be able to blend in because if you don't, you get caught.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a mask. That's not who they really are. The person killing women is who they really are. So that is our local lore of the murder that happened in Houghton County. some of these concepts I'm carrying in because I got a real banger coming up in about 2 episodes.
So, has there been any... I mean, obviously he wasn't charged with anything else or convicted of anything else, but was there any scuttle about maybe unsolved cases in either Illinois or Michigan that were potentially linked to him, or...
No, I could not find anything. It was just the sexual assault that happened in Illinois, and people saying that at work he was doing creepy stuff, but it was never followed up on. So he transferred from Illinois, where he did something creepy, to Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids, people allegedly were reporting that things were problems, and then he transferred to Houghton.
Okay, yeah.
And but is this a case of like the Catholic Church where...
Oh, yeah, you just keep transferring people.
You just keep transferring people.
That's exactly what I thought of when you said he just got transferred. That's interesting. I wonder if they're... And because this happened quite a while ago, and there's probably not searchable articles and things like that, they'd, at this point, they'd be long, cold cases. But maybe unsolved murders of women in those areas.
Because I don't believe that he went from groping a woman in the park to then stalking someone and kidnapping her, driving her across 2 counties, drowning her.
Yeah.
Like, there's something likely missing in the middle.
Yeah,
so when
that's,
you look at escalation,
so I'm wondering if there's unsolved cases in those 2 areas where he lived, and they're just so old now that we wouldn't be able to find them in research.
Well, and if there is, he's not talking, so...
Oh, no, he's not going to talk. Very interesting.
Yes. So, next week, it's Kyla. It's her story. Yeah. I think we might have a guest speaker. I'm going to throw it out there to the universe and see if it manifests itself.
Yeah, we were going to try to do it today, but
she chickened out.
The guest chickened out. So we're going to keep trying to ply her with peanut butter whiskey and see if we can get her on the pod.
I think we're very close to breaking her, so I think we're going to get her on here. And if it is, just a little hint about what's the story going to be.
Pickleball.
Pickleball. And the reason is because the guest loves pickleball.
Yeah.
In like a fanatical, maybe not completely healthy way.
I think she loves pickleball more than she loves you. So.
100. She loves pickleball more than she loves me, Molly, or Peyton.
Yeah. So yeah, we may have a guest next week, and if not, we'll do a different story, and we'll just keep bothering the person until they give in.
We have until November.
Yeah. We'll see.
So, everyone have a good weekend. And we will see you.
I'm going to say again, it's a happy 4th of Julingo, which is something my grandma used to say, and nobody seems to know why. It was just something she made up.
That's okay.
And then her daughter had messaged me, or put on one of our Facebook posts, that her dad, who my grandmother was married to, before she got divorced and remarried, used to say happy 4th of Julingo too. So I don't know which one of them started it, and I don't know why. So if anyone knows the history of happy 4th of Julingo, or if it's just some nonsense that Nance made up.
Is this an Ontonagon thing?
No. No, because her ex-husband lived in Seattle for years and years.
So, okay, yeah. That's weird.
So I don't know where it came from or what it's from, or if she just made it up.
Because you have an aunt that lives near Seattle, right?
Yeah, it's the same one. Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah.
This is the one we were saying we might go visit someday.
Do a live in the wine store pod.
Yeah, do a wine store pod. I could swing by Idaho and get myself another cat.
Another cat. You're insane.
Okay. Have a good weekend, everyone. We will see you next week.